Good morning, everybody. Let me see if I can get to where the sun's not directly behind me. I'm walking down to the lake, which is right here. Well, I guess I can have the sun in front of me if I get behind the trees. That's not bad. If I'm looking this way, I can't look into the sun. So I'm going to start my video here. I don't know if I'm going to finish it here or not. This is winter time. It is cold out here. Now, can't see my breath, but I can see this. My car is running still. I've got the cat inside. I want to keep it warm for him. The lake's up a little bit, but it's going down fast again. Every time it comes in, it leaves logs and stuff on the shore when it goes back out. Pretty soon they're going to burn the grass when it dies next month sometime. I have to get my living situation organized by then. Something's in the works. Pray for me on this. I can't tell you anything about it, but let's just say somebody's trying to work out something for me. And if it does, I may be able to get inside something. I'll still be here at the park, but we're working on it. In any case, I want to talk about the tribulation. Why do we have the tribulation? Doesn't God know what He's doing? Of course He does. Why doesn't He just wipe mankind out? He's done it before. Well, when He wiped mankind out because of the flood, I feel it was because of the Nephilim and the distorted DNA. The DNA of which Jesus would have had to have been a descendant of, and He didn't want that. I don't know what the case was with Sodom and Gomorrah, other than that there was a small area and they were just wiped out. But He could wipe the planet out, do the rapture, and then wipe everybody out. He's not doing that. Why? One, because of promises. Daniel's 70th week hasn't come yet. That has to be fulfilled. But that's only 7 years. And then there's a millennium. All these different tactics of His, I guess, they have to do with His love for mankind. Not His hate for mankind, but His love for mankind. Giving you ample opportunity to make the right choice. Letting things get bad slowly. We have free will. And God won't go against free will for any reason. That's the power we have over God. It's the only power we have over God, and it's been given to us to have free will. So if people don't want to accept Christ, they have the free choice to do that. It's foolish and misguided, but it's a choice. So when the tribulation starts, we won't be here, but when it starts off pretty easy because it starts with the Antichrist, who appears to be, well, for us it's a cheap copy of Christ, but for the world, they don't know any better, so they're going to think it's him. And it's going to seem nice. He's going to bring peace, quote unquote. It's not worth the paper it's written on, but he's going to get a peace treaty, 7-year peace treaty. He will be instrumental in getting the temple rebuilt in Jerusalem. The force that's been instrumental in preventing it, Persia, Iran, has been weakened greatly, and they're contemplating attacking their nuclear sites right now because they still want to annihilate the world that doesn't believe what they do. They're completely radical. The people maybe not as much, but the leadership definitely is. If you let bad leadership get into your country, you're going to suffer for it. Okay, I'm going to talk some more about this, but I don't have gloves on my hands and they're getting cold. So let me wrap this up and then I'll be right back in a little bit. It might be a different time of day, so let's see what happens. Okay, I'm back and I'm seated. I've got some scriptures to look at. I've been waiting for it to try to warm up, but there's just a little bit of a thin layer of clouds and the sun just can't push its way through, so it's not going to warm up. We might get to 50. This is part of what I'm dealing with, and I'm not in my tent or I'd be warmer. Because of what I've done in my tent, it is warmer. I've hung curtains material on the inside of the one end of the tent. The tent's big. And that adds a layer of insulation, so when the heater's working, it doesn't dissipate as fast. So it's warmer. It's like 70 degrees in my tent. It's 45 right now, I think, out here. Like I said, I don't think it's going to get to 50. If the sun would come out, it would be better. All right. Had a couple of people mention they'd like to help me do something fundraising for a place to stay here. We're working on something here already. I can't say any more about it, but pray about it, that if it works out, I'll have a place here. If not, plan B. Plan B is I stay where I'm at, or I get an upgraded tent. I've got to get a new tent every year anyway, because these things are not designed for full-time use. They wear out. You say, we're not moving it. No, but the sun's hitting it every day, and the material breaks down. I had a tent 2 years ago, just exactly like the one I've got now, and the material was so bad I could just push my finger and go right through it. Then I went and got a new one. It's unfortunate, but, it's a couple $100 a year. If you divide it up, that's not much a month. So for what I have to pay for rent here, I can afford a tent once a year. Just have to do it. I just had to spend money on my car, and that was the only problem for this month, so I'm pushing it off till next month. But the other solution might work out. Okay, we're still talking about the tribulation. So everybody likes to call the 7-year period the tribulation. It's really not defined that way. The second half is called the Great Tribulation. It is 7 years of the final week of Daniel. It's in heptads, which is we use a dozen for 12, they use heptad for 7. And it's 7 years because we've already calculated the number that we needed to get from the rebuilding of the temple in 500 BC all the way up until Jesus' time, 69 heptads. We've still got one left. And it is the final one that God is doing to get people's attention. So we're going to read again as I'm outside. I will read out of here. I could go get my laptop, but I like old school when I can. So turn with me to Deuteronomy 4:30. When you are in distress, and all these things come upon you in the latter days. Early prophecy. When you turn to the Lord your God and obey his voice. That's why all this stuff is happening, to get people to turn to God. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not forsake you nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers, which he swore to them. So, if you want to know why this is happening, I say it all the time, but it's, to wake people up. It's to get their focus. It's like sounding a a fire alarm or one of those air horns. It gets people's attention, and then we can focus on God again. We get distracted easily. Squirrel. Actually, I was looking to see if I could find one, and I don't see one. These critters have been stalking up and climbing up into their nests up in the trees. You can see one. Where is it? Right there. So they don't come out on the ground a lot. It's cold. Which is what I will crawl back into my nest here in a little bit. Okay. Let's turn to Jeremiah 37. I have to mark these pages to help me find where I'm at, because you don't want to waste your time watching me turn the pages. And I use one of my tracks to do so. I always keep a track in my Bible. I keep more in the glove box, but I always keep one. So where are we turning? We're turning to Jeremiah 37. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it, and it's the time of Jacob's trouble, but it shall be saved, but he shall be saved out of it. Jacob's trouble. You will find that reference used in Revelation. It's coming from Jeremiah. Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, Isaiah, all the prophets talked about some of the times for the people then, but they also talked about the times at the end. They got to see the whole timeline. Now the problem is they're seeing the timeline looking out at a distance, and they don't know what it means. They're just telling us what they see. And then we write it down, or they write it down, and we figure it out later on when it's actually happening. Oh, okay, they did know about it. And let's see, we're going to turn to Daniel 12:1. At that time Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people. And there should be a time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time, and at that time your people shall be delivered, every one who's found written in the book, and many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. Some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. Those who are wise shine like the brightness of the filament. Those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. And then it says, but Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many will run to and fro. We've covered this before. To and fro, and the knowledge shall increase. Bingo, we're right there. So, they've talked about these end times for some time. And we're living in it. So we know what it's about. And we've got it covered here in the Bible. People say, well, this Bible is not inspired by God. How in the world could it not be inspired by God to be able to predict the future? None of your other religious leaders predicted the future. Only God of the Bible and Jesus, the prophets that were called by God. And now finally let's look at Matthew 24:21. For then will be the great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time, nor ever shall be, and unless those days were shortened, no flesh would survive. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. All these things are coming. We can see how things are beginning to set up. They weren't quite right until recently for a Magog-type war. Now, is the Magog war next? When we look at the things on our calendar, technically the next thing is the rapture. but it could be before or after a Magog war. The bottom line is, we're before the Antichrist. So when does the Antichrist come? Well, he's going to come and bring peace. If there's already peace, he's got nothing to do. So there has to be war going on. And there's been war in the Middle East from the beginning. Before they decided to put Israel at the top of their list, they were fighting amongst themselves. They're still doing that. The folks that are in Syria now that are taking over are not nice guys. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, they're not the nice people. Now, they may learn from their predecessors and from Hamas and Hezbollah they better play nice right now because Israel's in a I'm not going to take it anymore mode. But ultimately, their goal, all Muslims' goal is to kill everybody in the world except Muslims. And even if you're a Muslim, if you're not their type of Muslim, they can kill you too. That's why they're still warring. Now, Israel being smart, knowing who these people are, has been, since the, quote, fall of Syria and Damascus, has been attacking all their sites so that they can't continue what they did before. They're up on Mount Hermon now, finally. That really should be Israel, but it kind of slipped into the enemy's hands. Hopefully they don't give it back. Every time there's a war, they gain property because the enemy can't fight. You can't fight God. And God's already promised them a lot more land than they should have double the land that they've got. But their enemies around them have taken it. They will eventually get it all back. And then it'll all be destroyed. In any case, we have the tribulation coming for salvation. The tribulation, at least the first part, is not punishment. It's man's infliction upon himself. The seals are all man's doing. The Antichrist, they're going to accept a copy. Then all the things that are coming are man's. They're not God's punishment. A quarter of the people are going to die. And then you got the trumpets that are laid over the top. Same basic thing. When you get to the bowl judgments, that's the, quote, wrath of God. But God doesn't deal out wrath. That's not him doing it. It may be called the wrath of God, but it's his workers doing it, if you will. Satan is one of God's workers. He gives you an alternative. He wants you to come to him willfully, using your free will. By giving you an alternative that appears good on the surface, you can come to him lovingly, which is what he wants. He doesn't want to stranglehold you and say, you're going to love me. That's not love. Like the old saying goes, if you love someone, let them go. If they come back, then it's meant to be. Well, God is doing that. He's letting people go. He's playing the father of the prodigal son. Why do you think we have that parable? So the tribulation, at least the first half of it, is man's doing. All the things that we've created and done bad. There will be some plagues that are released on the earth again. I'm afraid that whatever the big C had to offer us is nothing compared to what they've got in the books. I know that there's a lab out of, was it South America or Venezuela or someplace? I don't remember where there's like 200 deadly viral things that are missing. Yeah. Where have they put them? Amongst all the 1.5 million more people that are in this country illegally? I saw a map. We've got an awful lot of them in Georgia. More than most. Because we're a lot of rural areas and they can hide out. It's going to be a busy time deporting people. And they're not going to go friendly because most of them are not friendly. Those that came across the border to come and find work, I welcome you. Please come here and work. But those that came across the border to do us destruction, I pray that God will deal with you exactly what you're going to dish out. You live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. God will make sure of that. But we have some punishment due to us, so I don't know how much he's going to let happen. Our current administration is not friendly to God. No matter what he says rhetoric-wise, he is not a Christian, at least in his, you tell a tree by his fruit is rotten. And most of the people behind him, rotten fruit. The leadership of our government is calling for term limits. The president has one, and when they put it on the president, they said nobody should be in office that long. Yet Congress, who ordered it, changed. They don't have any term limits. Evil people setting the rules. I hope they get this fixed. But who knows? We're not mentioned in the Bible as far as the end times goes, so I don't know if we're, going to fall or what. If this last election had gone the other direction, I would have said, yes, we're definitely going to fall. I don't know now. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm afraid they've got something up their sleeve. They're just not reacting right. So continue prepping. Keep your food stores up. Keep your car gassed up. Be ready for something to break, major. We don't know what it's going to be. They've got the rest of this month and 20 days into next month, whatever the date is, I forget now. The bottom line is, it's not long. They could order nukes launched at our adversaries, in which case they would have to respond with nukes, wouldn't they? If we launched enough of them, we could eliminate man on this earth. Satan would love that. So I'm sure he's considered it. It might be that God said, nope, that's beyond what I allow you to do. God controls what Satan can do. But people get Satan's wrath when they deserve it because they turn their back on God. Don't do that. Now is not the time. Now is the time to be as close as possible. What do you guys want up there? I'm not bothering you. In one of the trees behind me, I saw the eagle again. So they're coming over here and they're looking out. He's looking out over the lake. There's two of them, so I'm not sure if it's the same one of the pair. But they're looking for fish. I can't let Rapture Kitty out because he would be lunch. And they could swoop down and pick up something the size of a cat very quickly and be gone, and there's nothing I could do about it. So he can't go out, can't run around. I really don't want him outside anyway. I like him inside. But he's becoming a pest. I have those curtains, like I said, I got inside. He goes on his zoomies, as my son calls them, and he runs through there, and he pulls one or two down every time he does that. He does it 2 or 3 times a day. He's also figured out how to open the refrigerator, because that's where I keep his cat food, the open container. So I have to keep something in front of it. I need to go pick up one of those locking mechanisms that you put on refrigerators to keep kids out. It's on my list. In the meantime, I just keep stuff in front of it so he can't open it. Kids, whatever their gender, age, race, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. And to God, we're kids, and so he's got to shake his head with us all the time. But he's loving God, and that's our salvation. All right. Keep thinking good thoughts as we get closer and closer to Christmas. We're going to have a good time this year. Till we meet in the clouds. God bless.